Hey guys, this is the weekly 5Y5. I'm Ali Maxwell. He's George Ellick. We are 5 Yards ambassadors, and this is our weekly look at the game at 5 Yards and picking out 5 players specifically whom we want to frame the conversation around. Some of the most well-known players in the world, a couple from the EFL, which is something of a sweet spot for us. George, on the platform this week, before we get into our 5, I want to know who's been the most popular player for those playing 5 yards.
Yeah, 5 of the best here on the 5Y5. The 5 most popular players on the game being bought by you are Fabinho, top of the list. Fabinho, a player who we wouldn't necessarily associate with a massive PP merchant, but obviously people are seeing a bit of value there. We're playing a lot of games for a Liverpool team who are going to win a lot of them. In second, my favourite player in the world, probably the favourite player in the world ever, Jack Grealish. I'm not even going to try and justify why people are buying him. It's an absolute obvious one. He's destined for the very top. Kareem Adeyemi is in third, just ahead of 2 very exciting young players, one of which plays for the biggest team in the UK. Another one plays for Manchester United. No, I'm just joking. Can't be nice about Reading, can I? In fourth, it's Mason Greenwood, whose goal on the weekend in the Premier League was absolutely superb. What a finisher he is. A player's going to score a lot of goals. And in fifth, it's the player who I think, Ali, you and I are the most excited about probably in the EFL at the moment, Reading's Michael Olise. Olise, current France youth team international. I wonder if England are going to try and grab him back for the Three Lions.
Also, my biggest interest in 5 yards terms in my squad at the moment. Let's get cracking into 5 players who we're going to chat about this week, starting with one that we can't ignore, and that is Angelino, the left back, the left wing back, if you like, of RB Leipzig. And, well, obviously the main context is a magnificent performance, especially in the first half against Manchester United in the Champions League on Tuesday. But in 5 yards terms, we have to flag him up like we did on this show with Alvaro Morata last week, simply because Angelino has the second highest performance pay this season on the whole of 5 yards, with 7.7 million earned already, a total value of 35 million. It's natural that he's grabbing our attention. So let's chat through things. I think this is a bit of a buy, to be honest. Not a strong one, but a small buy. And I'll be doing so this week with Angelino. With his value at £35 million, those who have owned him for a long time from the start of the season would have already earned back 20% of their initial outlay on PP alone. And of course, his price has risen already this season. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another price hike shortly as well. Playing for Leipzig, who, as we know now, are a high-performing, high-scoring team in a high-scoring league, the Bundesliga, which is sort of mid-level when it comes to performance pay across European top divisions. And crucially for this game, the Champions League, which is, as we know, where you earn the most coin. 7 goals and 5 assists for him already in league and in European action this season. You can see why last night. I mean, he's a left back. Sometimes they play 3 at the back and he's a left wing back. But if you looked at his heat map, his touch map, I would assume that there won't be, half of the wingers, half of the wide midfielders in world football probably don't touch the ball as high up the pitch as often as Angelino. His function is mostly in an attacking sense. And in the Bundesliga, he's in the top 30 this season for shots, for non-penalty expected goals as well. So a real goal threat, even if he plays in a position where you wouldn't expect that to be the case. And he's interesting in a career sense because he's only on loan at Leipzig. He's on loan from Manchester City. And I think this could be the first proper success story of the City football group. That is Manchester City's sort of wider network, if you will. He's been within the Death Star, if you like, since he was 16. He had loans within the network as well with New York City and with Girona in Spain and a couple of loans at other clubs as well. City allowed a quote-unquote permanent move to PSG in 2018-19, where he was in the Eredivisie team of the season and subsequently and swiftly brought him back to City, loaned him to Leipzig this season, and he's thriving there. This is the idea of the network itself as it enters sort of, I guess it's 5th or 6th year, and as the network grows. He could be the poster boy for City, because you can't tell me that Pep truly fancies Mendy long-term in that left-back slot. you can't tell me either, as much as Cancelo's been impressive when he's played left back, that Pep would love to have a right-sided or a right-footed player on the left side. And given Angelino is already City's player, when he's performing at this sort of level, it feels obvious that he should be given a chance next season. In terms of 5 yards, I mean, you shouldn't get blinded by PP that's already been earned, because you won't earn that if you now invest and buy into Angelino. So you have to think about short-term PP. A lot depends on how far you think Leipzig can go in the Champions League this season, how many more wins they can get, how many more goals and assists you think he might get. Those are obviously so valuable. It might be worth waiting until the draw next Monday and considering a buy in the Tuesday transfer window. But just in pure price terms, he's interesting to me. He's not even in the top 15 most expensive fullbacks on 5 yards. And given his performances for Leipzig, his attacking skill set, and the potential to be given a chance by City next season, he's got to be of interest. So it's a classic 5 yards conundrum. We're trying to get ahead of the next transfer, ahead of the big move. And football doesn't always work out the way you think. But being able to back your opinion is the name of this game. And I think Angelino, not just with that performance last night, but in general, has got to be on the radar of a lot of people on 5 yards. Who's been catching your eye this week, apart from Angelino, of course?
Well, it's not necessarily who's been catching my eye, but I think if you're a football fan, it's been pretty hard to get away from Paul Pogba, not only in the last couple of years, but also in the last week or so, because not only did Pogba score an unbelievable goal at West Ham on the weekend to get his side back into it, his agent, Mino Raiola, also came out on Monday and said that Paul Pogba's time at Manchester United is over. And then he came off the bench when United were 3-0 down against Leipzig and put in a performance that nearly got them back into the game. Put in some brilliant through balls. He headed the ball into Harry Maguire for the second goal as well. So he came on and changed the game. It wasn't quite enough, but the conundrum around Pogba is now really interesting. And I think especially within 5 yards, because the point of 5 yards is to look at players who are up and coming, but also take players like Pogba and work out age 27, what is going to happen to his career now. And if you look back to July the 1st, he was valued at 55 million, so a 10 million pound price drop. In that time, he's barely played any Premier League. I mean, he's hardly played much Premier League or Champions League football, but he still earned 3 million pounds of PP. So, even by not playing for a side who aren't necessarily playing too well, still picking up PP. If Mino Raiola is being truthful, if the plan is, especially now they've gone out of the Champions League, if Paul Pogba is going to force his way out of Manchester United in the summer or possibly even in January, where is he going to end up? If he goes, you have to think it's going to be an elite level European club. Like, you just have to. There's no way he would leave for anything else, especially just with the money involved too. I cannot imagine him at age 27 going away from Europe either. Now, £45 million could be very, very cheap, very, very quickly. If he was to go back to, say, Juventus, who win so many games, if he was to go to either of the, or any three of the Spanish clubs who could maybe sign him as well, Chelsea, another team who are being linked to, you just feel like a Paul Pogba, a fit Paul Pogba, a motivated Paul Pogba playing football for an elite European side in the Champions League is a recipe for this to skyrocket very, very quickly. It wasn't long ago he was thought of as being one of the most valuable players in the world. And if we're saying anything in the last couple of games, it's that on the pitch, he's still very effective. On the pitch, he can still create. On the pitch, he can still score goals. United fans out there, I know there are a fair few of them who cannot wait for the day that Paul Pogba is no longer a Manchester United player. And I respect that. I understand that he hasn't always been the best ally for the club to have. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a footballer who has won a World Cup already, whose star quality is absolutely massive, who will dominate the headlines of whatever club he does go to. And if he stays at Manchester United, it's a bit of a bet to nothing, I think. And especially with them out of the Champions League, it might not be too long until we see a change to the dugout. Pogba reinstalled as being a talisman, and it could even be there where his price rockets. So, it's not a particularly exciting one. I know last week I was on talking about Messi as a sell, and maybe talking about Pogba as a buy might jar for some, but I do think there could be some value here. The fact is his value has gone down 10 million, but a move which could be the thing that triggers his price to spike could not be far away. So Paul Pogba a buy for me at 45 mil.
My turn to talk about a sell, and I'm going to talk about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang of Arsenal. £22 million his value on the platform. And just a reminder that FIVEYARDS value represents future performance pay. And that is set by a team of scouts, analysts, who we are essentially trying to beat. We are trying to beat their valuations of players. And that, as we know, can involve recommending or buying players that you think will outperform that. But you can also show your knowledge on 5Yards by recommending a sell, essentially saying, I don't believe that this player could get towards that. And I'm confident that Aubameyang will not get near £22 million in performance pay from now until the end of his career. And I would want to put off anyone who might see Aubameyang and think that looks a little bit low because of the quality that he's shown in his career up to this point. I think, first and foremost, a player like Aubameyang, although he has a goal scorer's instincts, as we've seen with really good goal returns over the last few years, his physical decline may have already started. And for someone like him, it might be quite a sharp decline as well. And even if he's a key man for Arsenal now, I don't think we can say for sure that that will definitely be the case in a year or in 18 months' time. Not just because of Aubameyang. Arsenal are in a really bad spot at the moment. There's a lot of issues, a lot of anger from the fan base towards those running the club. And Mikel Arteta's had a tough month himself. Now, I think Arteta will be backed by those that run the club. But when there's a situation like this at a big club like Arsenal, you have to worry about what sort of decisions will be made in the next year or two and how quickly a club can move away from long-term planning to try and just short-term fixes, really. So you can't really predict with any confidence that Aubameyang will be a talisman for this Arsenal side for a good few years and that they will be a high-performing team as well. You've got to bear in mind as well, we keep mentioning it, Champions League performance is just so massive when it comes to 5Yards. Aubameyang scored 22 goals in the Premier League last year and racked up 13 wins, of course, and 3 assists. And that equated to £4.9 million in performance pay. Didn't play in the Champions League. And it just shows that you really do need Champions League football if you're the sort of 5Yards player who's looking for sort of premier performance pay gains in the short term. Angelino, 7.7 million already this season. Aubameyang, one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League, 4.9 million in the whole of last season. He's got a contract until the end of the 2022-23 season, at which point he'll be 34. In that time, what chance Arsenal play in the Champions League? They're not in it this season. There is PP for Europa League, but it's pretty marginal compared to the Champions League. They won't be in it next season. The following year, you wouldn't be that confident that they'd break into the top 4 the way that things are going compared to their big 6 rivals. So without Champions League action, it's impossible for me to think that Aubameyang would get anywhere near £22 million in performance pay between now and the end of his career. And of course, at this age, you will start to see players on 5Yards value start to decline pretty quickly. So I think it's only a matter of time before that price starts to fall. So it's a sell for me, Aubameyang. No joy in saying it, of course, but just a reminder to you guys that 5Yards, it's about backing your opinion. It doesn't have to involve putting your money where your mouth is. You don't have to be depositing money and buying into players. You can back your opinion and note your opinion by writing scout reports on players and recommending whether you would theoretically buy or sell them. So there's many, many different ways to play 5Yards. And with that hat on, Aubameyang's a big no for me, I'm afraid, George. A time for the EFL segment of 5x5.
Yeah, I think you probably couldn't go far wrong by just buying all the Norwich players who are up on 5Yards because they have so many talented players. But there's one I'm going to talk about today, and that is Max Aarons, who scored Norwich's winner on the weekend against Sheffield Wednesday. A really nice finish as well, very composed. And he's up at 19 million. He's only made 300 grand of performance pay this season. That's not surprising given he's playing in the Championship and you don't get much for your, you don't get much PP there for your goals and assists and your wins. But this is a long-term hold. And Aarons is someone who, he's got 100-odd league games already under his belt for Norwich. He's 20 years old. He was one of the many Norwich players who seemingly didn't really cover themselves in glory in the Premier League last season. But actually, he did a pretty good job playing for a side who were not up to the quality and the standard and weren't really ready for the test either. He was being linked to Barcelona just a couple of weeks ago. And there is like a fair chance that Aarons' next move, which will come probably in the summer coming up, whether or not Norwich get promoted or not, there's a very good chance that his next move is going to be skipping out that middle move. I tweeted about it this week. We've seen Ollie Watkins go from Brentford to Aston Villa. We've seen Said Benrahma and Jared Bowen go to West Ham from the EFL. We've seen Ebereeze going to Crystal Palace. But these players are making the step up, with the exception at the moment of Benrahma, who I'm sure will do it soon when he's actually given a chance to play by David Moyes. We're seeing these players make the step up into the Premier League so easily. There isn't a massive gap. I think the reason for that is because there are a lot of players playing Premier League football week in, week out who aren't technically that good. So the cream of the crop technically from the Championship are naturally going to be better than a fair few in the Premier League. And I have a feeling that quite soon we're going to be seeing these supposed bigger clubs, these elite clubs in Europe, looking to the Championship for cheaper talent. Why wait? Why let someone like Ollie Watkins go for whatever it was, 25, 30 million, and then they have to buy him for 60 million? Get them at their cheapest. And Aarons is a player who has every attribute you'd want from a modern day fullback. It's the one position on the pitch where every single elite European club wants the same thing. They want a player who can get up and down the flank consistently all game, who has good pace, good defending one-on-one, and the ability to overlap and get balls into the box. Aarons has all of that. He's 20 years old. If he gets that move this summer, right, and let's take assists and goals just out of the equation, even though he will get plenty of both, or at least plenty of assists, he could be playing right back for a Champions League side for the next 10 years, and you're getting him at 19 million. The fact that he was linked to Barcelona already shows you this isn't just two guys who love their EFL telling you how good Aarons is. This is a fact that clubs of that level are looking at this guy as a possible right back for their team. Again, he'll be playing top level football for his whole career. You are getting a very, very safe bet here. You might just have to hold on to him for one Championship season, but I'm pretty sure after that it's going to be the Champions League rather than the Championship.
One of the most fun players to watch as well in the second tier, despite playing at fullback. He's pretty much got the whole of that right flank, doesn't he, to himself, with Buendia tucking in and sort of playing essentially in a number 10 position, even if he's nominally playing off the right. So great fun to watch as well. There's a ton of EFL players going up on the platform again this week. There were loads last week. We're really starting to populate it with your requests, guys. So thank you for that. There are loads of players in general, not just EFL players, going up on 5 yards at the end of this week. Certainly a couple that have caught my eye. Rafinha of Leeds United. It's great to see Ezri Konsa of Villa going up on there as well, an EFL graduate who's very highly rated and playing really well this season, but many other players as well. Rodrigo de Paul of Juventus, I know that he's quite a popular guy. But in EFL terms, here are some names for you: Ben Whiteman, Callum Britton, Tariq Uwakwe, Kiefer Moore, Paddy McNair, Kaminsky, Ayew, Quina, Sutar, Osei Samuel, Guehi, Sykes, and Lyndon Dykes. Sykes and Dykes to finish it off. I'm going to talk about one of them. I mean, I could talk about all of them all day, as you guys know. But, I mean, we're always striving for that Premier League potential, aren't we? Because as much as we love EFL players, on 5 yards, they don't earn a ton of performance pay. If we're looking for Premier League potential, I have to just flag up Mark Guehi before we finish this episode. He's got to be the most interesting for me, I think, personally. And I'm really interested to see how the analysts price him up, because I really don't know how they're going to take a view of this. He's part of a generation, Guehi, at 20 years old, born in the year 2000. He'll turn 21 just at the end of this season. He's part of a group of players who have not waited around at elite academies to start their careers in senior football. So Chelsea have obviously placed him well so far at Swansea, where he's thriving in the Championship. He's taken to senior football really, really well. And it's almost like after this year, as long as his performance levels are maintained, he'll have had the best part of a year and a half on loan at Swans in the Championship. And I can't see him playing at anything other than top tier level after that. Now, there might be one more loan in the pipeline, either to a Premier League club or to a top tier European club. Chelsea have sent players to the Bundesliga quite regularly in the past. There may be no obvious pathway at Chelsea, given the depth at centre-back that they have. But I'm sure that Guehi will either try and force a move, like someone like Tariq Lamptey did, if he's not going to just sit around and warm the bench. So equally, they might get that next loan right. They might send him to they might do a really good job with that second loan, and he could be a Chelsea player in 2 or 3 years' time. He's so classy on the ball. Great. He's got everything that you'd really look for in a modern defender. He's not the tallest, but he doesn't seem to be a weakness aerially. And he's so quick. You know, his recovery speed is incredible. He's very composed on the ball and playing for a Swansea team that are basically teaching him all you need to know about build-up play from centre-back. So he's the sort of player, we've seen this time and time again, George, that we are excited about because we're seeing them play week in, week out in the Championship. Maybe those who cover the Premier League don't know as much about him yet, but honestly, it only takes about 5 or 10 games of someone's first Premier League season for people to realise that there's a very good player there. He's obviously got England international potential as well if he really hits his ceiling, because it's not a position of great depth, you'd say, for England at this point in time. With Guehi, a lot depends on what price he goes on the game at the end of this week, of course. I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on it for a potential long-term buy, of course, playing in the Championship. So not much PP this season. Also a defender. So really, you're looking for someone who's going to be playing at the very top level and winning a lot of football matches. But Guehi's potential is immense, and I could see him doing that for a long time. So that's us for this week, the 5Y5. Remember that you can request players to be added to the platform on 5 Yards. And please do get involved. As I said, you can buy players to your heart's content, but you can also write a ton of scout reports, get that scout rating up, make recommendations to help other 5 Yards players, and also just to back your opinion, to prove your knowledge and to prove your eye for talent. That's it from us. We'll talk again next week.